So I like the idea of a place that produces mass amounts of cooked food. Things that are cooked and are the basis for other people's meals. So that people can come, and in some cases they can buy prepared foods in bulk and take them away, and they feed a bunch of people. They can sell them for more than they bought them for. That's perfectly fine. In the case of the basics, that kitchen should cook and be able to provide basic things that go out to people. Those are things like oats. People could come and say, I want 2 gallons of oats, all cooked up, all perfect. There could be fruits and things there, and they can have something put in it. Why not? We can cut that stuff up, or they can cut it up at their own camp, whatever. Have prices on all that stuff, though. Oats, rice, potatoes. Potatoes take a long time to cook. You have to plan ahead. They need a lot of energy. They're very filling, and they're a good thing. So are onions. And it's easier to cook those in bulk at this mass food-making distribution thing. It's kind of like a restaurant supplier to restaurants of food freshly cooked. And you can imagine this happening within a block radius or within a building. And that's what I'm imagining it being in, is a building. We can also imagine this happening at a festival or something where there's different camps. And so a camp goes to another place and they say, I would like X kilos of such and such. And their order will often be similar. There's also prepared foods that could be sold. There could be eggs available that people can buy hard-boiled or buy in various forms. They could even come with their own container and crack eggs into it if they're going to be cooking eggs at their location. Because these people in the remote locations do need to have their own kitchen. They want to heat the food up. They want to be eating it over time and eat leftovers. And so we're just trying to take the load off of them. We're trying to free time up for these chefs or cooks at these various remoter kitchens so that they've got the basic things that they need already there, and they can quickly serve a whole bunch of food in their location. This quickly expands the number of functional exterior locations. Now, of course, there's a limit to how far away you want to carry food and how you can carry it and keep it warm. But this happens in Yotateria, where people go over and they buy, for example, they bring their bucket and it gets filled up with pozole. Pozole is a really good soup type thing. It's very popular for large groups of people. And we could have vegetarian and non-vegetarian pozole. We could have occasionally a flavored pozole. And people can come in with their little buckets and they can load up and feed as many people as they want without doing any real work. People could buy food the day before. They could order it, and that would help a lot, and that actually might have a cheaper price. There's a huge advantage to thinking ahead and providing for groups and distributing the risk of having waste to different camps would be better, and also the primary kitchen could load balance their own work better. So orders are a good thing. It doesn't have to happen. The mass food production kitchen should also have a restaurant with it. It should not get distracted by making fancy meals of any kind or serving anything fancy. They serve food. In fact, maybe the best name for this mass food production facility is food, maybe Fud Food. The first food could be spelled F-U-D, the second one F-O-O-D. It's funny, trust me, I checked. Fud Food. Anyway, so Fud Food would be the cheapest place to get some of those things. The beans, the rice, the basic things that people could eat just there. They're just getting bowls of food, and it could be that 2 people buy a bowl of this and a bowl of that, and they mix it as they wish. I don't know what the best way to do that all is, but the point is not have a lot of dishes, not have a lot of service. The space itself must be wonderfully beautiful and opulent and excellent in some way, often perhaps changing its decor with hanging cloths and things like that. Having perhaps a video of things playing, of pictures of daily activities here, or interesting things that are mostly visual, kind of like a bank has, except more interesting. The point is that even though this is the basic food place, the place that essentially where food is almost free, really, you just show up and get your food, it should also be a fun place. Now, we don't actually want people hanging out there a ton because we want people to get their food and then move their ass out of there. So we have to figure that out. It may be that there's nearby attractions which are food compatible, like a food court type activity. Perhaps the screens are further away from the kitchen area to get people away from the kitchen area. We actually want people to carry their food to nearby areas to eat it or back to wherever they want to go. This particular kitchen will be primarily focused on hot foods. Foods that can be stored, it would take up more room. We could have those, for example, loaves of bread would be a good choice. There's an oven there, there would be ovens there, and there's no reason to not have a system by which if you have smoke going through a tube and it's heating a chamber, that we have a chamber that's hot all day long with either solar hot water heated and or fire heated, and we're just cranking the loaves through it all day. None of this heating a traditional stove up and then loading it, no. It should be a motion process where the dough moves through a heat system and comes out like really good bread. So that design is going to be very, very important. What else about the kitchen outside? I want to have, I think I already talked about all this. Yeah, I talked about the kitchen quite a bit. Anyway, but that's the idea of the bulk food thing. It would allow for maximum utility of food. Prices could vary slightly on how much things cost depending on what there is, but pretty much all these things should be available all year at a really consistent price. Fruit platters could also be done where someone could order a container full of cut fruit. Well, why not? I mean, if you get enough people out there and that person who's the host, who wants to focus on being the host, right? They don't want to focus on being the chef. If they can walk up there and have a 5-gallon food-grade bucket that's full of cut-up apples, oranges, and things that are compatible in one big bucket, and then they can just dump that on a platter at their place, right? They clean out their bucket, they clean up the plate afterwards, but they've used very little energy, and their time was all saved, and the people get this really nice bunch of awesome food. That's the magic goal. That's very different than a restaurant model. That's very different than a home-cooked model where everybody's making their own food in tiny groups using too much energy. I find that just to be ridiculous. Waste of time. The restaurant model is specialized food in different places. The cool thing is that all the restaurant models become much, much easier if you have this mass food production system. You've got this central kitchen that does big kitchen stuff. And then as fancy or not as people want to get with the other things they mix together, they do that. The marketing's theirs, the price is theirs, their issue. And some of those kitchens, they could, of course, make their own stuff. They should be big enough to make their own stuff. But we're talking about a specially built kitchen, just made for cranking out large volumes of food, which will not be consumed at the location. That changes things a lot and should allow for time savings and also cost savings. We'll have to calculate that as we do it and find out if that's really true. I'll be interested to see if this works. Also, those places should be related to a root cellar. They should be next to a root cellar. So they're pulling stuff right out of the root cellar in the right amounts, cooking it up, and then off it goes in bulk. So that's a wonderful thing. The root cellars will also have stores for other fresh foods and things like that. But putting that cooked food and prepared food out there in huge bulk would make everyone's job really easy.